When life loses its sparkle after a devastating loss, is it possible to find light again? Laura, a nurse who avoids her own birthday, has been living in the shadow of grief for 3 years. But on this special night, a series of inexplicable coincidences begins to intertwine past and present, challenging the boundaries between loss and new beginnings. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. In the tranquility of the end of her shift, Laura Bennett was putting away the last patient files at the nursing station. The hospital's digital clock showed 7:43 p.m., and her 38th birthday was passing by quietly, just as she had planned. Her colleagues had insisted on celebrating with a small cake in the break room during lunch, but Laura had preferred to smile politely and change the subject. "I'll celebrate at home quietly," she had gently lied. The truth was that birthdays had become days like any other, perhaps a bit heavier. As she walked down the brightly lit corridor of the community hospital, Laura felt the familiar tightness in her chest as she passed the emergency ward. 3 years ago, those same doors had opened to receive Ryan, her husband, after the accident. At the time, she worked on another floor, and when she rushed down after the phone call, it was already too late. The parking lot was nearly empty when Laura reached her car, a navy blue sedan that Ryan had chosen for its perfect balance between common sense and personality. She smiled slightly at the memory. Ryan always found peculiar definitions for ordinary things. 15 minutes from the hospital, her home awaited. A 2-story house with a white porch in a quiet neighborhood. It wasn't large, but the cozy spaces and light yellow walls created a welcoming atmosphere that, for a long time, had been enough. Now the silence seemed to amplify every empty space. Laura left her bag on the entrance console and turned on the lights. In the kitchen, she opened the refrigerator and contemplated its contents for a few seconds before closing the door with a sigh. From the counter, she picked up a small stationery box, a simple chocolate cake she had bought on the way. There was no point in making something elaborate just for herself. While waiting for the water to boil for the tea, her eyes wandered to the framed photograph on the kitchen wall, she and Ryan smiling in front of a lighthouse in Portland. The wind tousled their hair, and Ryan's smile displayed those small wrinkles at the corners of his eyes that she loved so much. It was the last summer they spent together. Ryan had been a paramedic for almost 10 years. He loved his job as intensely as he loved living. He was a man of unwavering faith, even in the most difficult circumstances. 3 is the perfect number, Law, he used to say. Faith, hope, and love. And we have all 3. The irony wasn't lost on Laura. She had lost all 3 when she lost him. With methodical movements, Laura lit 3 candles on the small cake. 3, Ryan's number. The kitchen was silent except for the soft ticking of the old clock on the wall, a wedding gift from Ryan's grandmother. 10:07 p.m., the clock showed. Laura felt a chill. It was the same time she received the call from the hospital 3 years ago. "I guess you would like me to try, wouldn't you, Rye?" she murmured to the empty space, feeling her eyes moisten. Leaning in to blow out the candles, Laura closed her eyes. For a fleeting moment, she felt less alone. The kitchen lights flickered suddenly, and a faint sound came from the hallway, as if something had fallen. Before she could process what was happening, she felt, with disturbing clarity, a hand touch hers. Warm, firm, unquestionably familiar. Laura pulled away abruptly, almost knocking over the cake. Her heart pounded against her chest as she looked around the empty kitchen. There was no one there. Of course there wasn't. But the sensation lingered on her skin, like an echo. Instead of the fear she should have felt, a strange sense of calm enveloped her. Laura sat down, breathing deeply, allowing the tears to finally fall. For the first time in 3 years she cried without the crushing weight of loss, only with the gentle longing for something precious she had once known. The next morning, Laura arrived at the hospital earlier than usual. Her sleep had been restless, filled with dreams she couldn't fully recall, but that left an impression of strange comfort. While organising the charts in the intensive care ward, she noticed an unusual movement in the corridor. A man was helping an elderly patient to stand up from a wheelchair. He wasn't one of the regular nurses. He wore the volunteer's blue vest and had an air of calm concentration that caught her attention. "Thank you, son," the elderly man said, patting the volunteer's arm. The man smiled gently, revealing small lines at the corners of his eyes. He had slightly tousled brown hair and a stubble that framed serene features. When he turned, his eyes met Laura's. "Good morning," he greeted in a low, melodious voice. "I'm Eli. I started yesterday." Laura felt a slight tingle down her spine but smiled professionally. "Laura Bennett, head nurse, welcome." In the days that followed, Laura noticed a curious pattern. Wherever she was in the hospital, Eli seemed to appear. Not in an intrusive or premeditated way. It was as if the universe simply aligned their paths. He was there when a patient in room 3 had an anxiety attack. He appeared with a glass of water when she went hours without a break. He brought a comforting silence in tense moments. On a particularly busy morning, Laura found Eli helping Mrs. Martinez, an 85-year-old patient, organize her belongings before discharge. "My grandson gave me so many things during my stay here that they no longer fit in my suitcase." The lady laughed as Eli carefully folded a colourful blanket. "Signs of love take up space but lighten the heart," Eli replied with a simplicity that made Laura stop at the door, surprised. It was something Ryan would say. While helping retrieve some items that had fallen on the floor, Laura noticed a small leather object. Bending down, she picked up what looked like a handmade bracelet. Her entire body froze as she turned it over and saw the initials engraved on the small metal charm. "RB." "Where did you get this?" she asked, her voice trembling. Eli looked at the bracelet, and for a moment, a shadow of recognition passed over his face. "Did you know him?" he asked gently. "Ryan Bennett. He was my husband," replied Laura, feeling her throat tighten. "This bracelet. I made it for him before the accident." A heavy silence filled the room. Mrs. Martinez looked from one to the other, sensing she was witnessing something significant. Eli took a deep breath before speaking. "I was there that night. I've been a volunteer paramedic for years," he explained with a controlled voice. "Ryan handed this to me before he was taken away. He said to give it to his wife. When the time was right." Laura felt her legs weaken and leaned on the edge of the bed. Mrs. Martinez silently gestured to the nearby chair, which Eli promptly offered. "But why now?" asked Laura, unable to fully understand. "Why wait 3 years?" Eli sat down in front of her, his eyes revealing an honesty that seemed to penetrate any defense. "Because I only found you now," he simply said. "I searched for the name Bennett in the hospital for a long time, but you worked in another department before. When I heard about the volunteer position here, I felt it was time, and somehow I felt he wanted it to be today." Laura held the bracelet tightly, as if she could extract Ryan's presence from it. Memories came in a cascade. Ryan making breakfast on Sundays, humming out of tune. Ryan organising emergency kits for the homeless. Ryan holding her hand on difficult nights, promising she would never be alone. In the following days, Laura and Eli developed a quiet routine. He would appear in the cafeteria when she ate lunch alone. He offered to help with the toughest cases. At times, they would simply sit in the small hospital garden, sharing the comfort of silence. There was something about Eli that conveyed peace, a quality Laura couldn't explain, but which she recognized deeply. It wasn't just kindness or empathy. It was as if he understood exactly what she was feeling, even when she herself had trouble naming her emotions. On a rainy Tuesday, chaos took over the emergency room when a 10-year-old child went into cardiac arrest. Laura rushed in with the team, initiating procedures with the mechanical precision that years of experience had solidified. But when the monitor began to emit that dreadful, continuous sound, something inside her broke. The image of Ryan lying on a similar stretcher invaded her mind. The same fluorescent lights, the same frenetic sounds, the same overwhelming helplessness. As another nurse took her place, Laura stepped back, struggling to breathe. Without thinking, her legs guided her to the hospital's small chapel, a tranquil space of dark wood and stained glass windows that filtered the afternoon light. She sat on the last pew and let the silence envelop her. She hadn't truly prayed since Ryan's death. The words always seemed empty, devoid of the meaning they once had. But at that moment, she knelt. She wasn't asking for answers or miracles, just strength. If there's still purpose in all of this, she thought, feeling the silent tears stream down her face, help me to see. Minutes later, the chapel door opened softly. Eli appeared, slightly out of breath, as if he had been looking for her. Is everything okay? He asked, approaching cautiously. Laura raised her face, surprised by her own smile that came naturally amidst the tears. For the first time in a long time. Yes, I think it is. Eli sat next to her, respecting the sacred silence of the moment. He didn't offer superficial words of comfort or advice. He was simply there, like an anchor in a turbulent sea. That night when Laura returned home, she found the small cake still on the kitchen table, the melted candles reminding her of the strange experience of her birthday. Instead of throwing it away, she decided to light new candles. The clock showed 10:07 p.m. again. When she positioned herself in front of the cake, Laura noticed that the lights flickered slightly. This time she felt no fear or startle, just a calm recognition. I know, Rye, she whispered, smiling. I feel it too. As she blew out the candles, she heard a soft knock on the front door. Confused, Laura crossed the room and through the side window saw Eli's silhouette. Sorry to show up like this, he said when she opened the door, but I found something today and I felt it couldn't wait. In his hands, a small dark blue velvet box. Inside, a delicate silver necklace with a flame-shaped pendant. I found it along with the bracelet, Eli explained. Ryan kept it in the inner pocket of his uniform close to his heart. I thought it was yours. With trembling hands, Laura picked up the necklace. The small silver flame shone under the hallway light. She remembered that necklace perfectly. She had given it to Ryan on the day they celebrated their 5th wedding anniversary. To light your way when it's dark, she had written on the card. May I? Eli asked, indicating the necklace. Laura nodded, turning so he could clasp it around her neck. When the pendant rested against her skin, she felt warmth spread across her chest. He asked me to say something when I finally found you, Eli said softly. Tell her that 3 is still the perfect number, and that some fires never go out. Laura felt the world stop. Those words are so undeniably Ryan's, so perfectly his, created a bridge between worlds she thought were forever separated. When she looked at Eli, she saw in him not just the messenger, but someone who, in some inexplicable way, had been placed in her path for reasons greater than chance. Do you believe that some people come into our lives exactly when we need them? She asked, feeling a new courage being born. Eli smiled, and in that smile, there was the same peace that she was beginning to rediscover. I believe that true love is the only reliable navigator, he replied, and that it always finds a way to continue, even when it seems impossible. The silver flame flickered against the light, like a small guiding star. And Laura knew, with crystal clear certainty, that this was not an end, but a new beginning, a story that continued in ways she could never have imagined. As she invited Eli to enter, Laura felt Ryan's gentle presence like a silent blessing. Some presences never truly leave us. They just change form to continue guiding our steps, lighting small lights on the path ahead. If you enjoyed the story, please leave a comment with a rating from 1 to 5 to show how much you liked it. Also, watch the video that is now appearing on your screen. See you soon.